I'm running. I'm responding. And the vulnerable frames. They are going to go about security for showing options. So, in both the security, what the deployment accounts, what techniques do we have after we deploy the code or we deploy the chain, and mainly from running firewalls and MCP needs. So this agenda, we're going to start with the state of security in 2024, and we're going to go into the future, like what the end in our mind looks like, and then we're going to do what is more relate both the Cosmos ecosystem and also like in the VM, like from running and reading it. And also just kind of like to start with a question for you guys. Like how much do you think is being lost to hacks, phishing, private keys compromised in 2024 this year, just in 6 months? If you have to guess me.
200
200. Someone get more? Yeah, well, yeah, almost. It was actually $1.4 billion dollars in just 6 months. This is almost something like what we saw, like when we were doing like similar code in Nebular Summit last year. Most of it actually has been like privately compromised. Sexes have been hacked again. But I guess like the key concept here is that hacks are correlated with the market activity. So when we see a bull market, when we see more activity, more TVLs, we just see more hacks. And this is very, very strongly correlated. In Cosmos, we've seen only like several minor hacks. So we are doing much better than other parts of the ecosystem. Also, I guess it's because like it's also correlated with the TVLs that we've achieved in this ecosystem. We have several minor hacks. Probably the one that did more headlines was the Albania incident. But we didn't have any hack that was more than above 7 figures. And yeah, the legacy is still undefeated, which is, that it's outstanding for such a long running interoperability product. But not everything is clean. We've also had the critical disclosure, so shout out to the team, to the White Hat research community for keeping us safe. But this is not, really fine, right? So I guess what sort of solutions we have in the toolset, we will be trying to separate it into these two very different buckets. One is pre-deployment, so anything that you can do before deploying your protocol or before doing like a big upgrade, like audits for verification, passing, and so on. And then we have the other bucket, which is where we focus on, which is post-deployment, right? Which is monitoring from running readings. And these are things that you do when your protocol is live on mainnet. I am really there was a security anchor. I think that audits are crucial. They're key. We think that they are not enough. More than 90% of security budgets for protocols for chains are still spending audits. But we think that we need also like complementary solutions. And as the industry matures, we're going to see more post-deployment security, as we see, for example, in the cloud industry, right? The audits have shortcomings. They're still very much recommended, so you're going to make this for that. But they are manual, they are ever-growing because they are made ultimately by humans. They are sometimes expensive to solve, so sometimes like you need to wait or long waiting lines to get around, which is kind of a bottleneck in your development life cycle. And also, most importantly, they are poorly suited with upgrades. So if you are building an immutable protocol like Liquidity or Unity 2, I would say spend 99% of your resources in pre-deployment because you're only going to deploy once. But if you are, as we do like in the Cosmos ecosystem, or in blocks what we see, regular upgrades, the problem with thousands is that they point to a previous snapshot. Your code is frozen. So if you do a lot of upgrades, kind of like the marginal returns of audits, or you do many, or like kind of decrease very, very rapidly. So what is sort of like the holy grail for us in post-deployment security? So if I have like a magic wand, what we would have, right? So a system that can detect all malicious transactions and perform security, proactive security measures. And ideally, that operates as a black box. So like we don't even need to know the code. We are just looking at signers. And, we have this system that's going to detect that. Of course, we are not there. But we can start to send the requirements of such a system. First, ideally in this world that we like it to be 100% effective against malicious transactions. Should be as well decentralized and trustless. There is main security solutions that introduce a centralization vector. We don't want that. And it's to be fair. it shouldn't break the censorship resistance of the chain and should follow our community rules. Like we don't want, like a system which is like an AI overload. We need something that follows our community rules. Fairness is a complicated topic, as determining even what is malicious and not. As we've seen, things like the Prop 16 is very hard to get, right? So, that's kind of how our policy would look like, but it's definitely very difficult. And this is what we call the end game. Like we stand some currently focus on, we think that this is a system that could fulfill all these properties in the future, right? Which would be kind of like a decentralized network of entities in power that would detect all malicious transactions at block creation. And most importantly, they could be a seeking proofs, determine if there is an exploit or not without actually revealing their source, right? And it could be set according to community government rules. So this is kind of like how, when we look at the future at the horizon, we think such a system could fulfill the requirements, but we are not there. We have all these shortcomings, like we have a lack of high fidelity systems. Like, for example, we can detect malicious transactions when we have false positive, right? So if you have a high positive rate, you cannot insert into the block ratio, which would be, like a bottleneck on your chain. There are proof of exploit systems, but they are still at the early stage proof of concept phase. And it's also clear where this system, where this firewall should be. It should be like a conversation in the validators, if we are talking about sequencers. That could be, like at the sequencer level for rollups or in protocol. And most importantly, it would have heavy in protocol required changes. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem where for you to justify such in protocol changes, you need to kind of check on these first 3 marks. So, like we like to spend time researching the endgame, but the problem with security is that it's a very urgent problem, right? So we also need to focus what's working now, what tools we have available right now to solve these problems in the round of course deploying security. Security is a urgent problem. We think that is one of the main bottlenecks for mainstream and institutional adoption. So we need to have these solutions right now. So what's working today? We separate into 2 different sort of verticals that have worked mostly like in the EVM ecosystem, and we are making progress to bring this as well to the IBC ecosystem. One is a combination of monitoring plus white hat from running, and the others are rate limits. Right now, we are going to spend a bit of time in each of those and understand a bit, the properties, the challenges, and also the shortcomings. So then what's white hat from running? So in essence, this is very similar to building an MVP generalized from running. And actually, like in the wild, we've seen many trading bots that act with this sort of like generalized from running properties actually be unintentional white hat hackers that from running transactions of exploits. And basically how it works is that you need a system that monitors every transaction in the map. You need to kind of understand if each transaction is malicious or not. And you're simulating the outputs and the inputs, doing dynamic analysis, however you do it. And then you either has 2 options. One is from run this transaction. So you insert your transaction before the one that was supposed to do the malicious transaction. And the other is to execute a circuit system, a circuit breaker. For the first, like for the 3A, this is not legal advice, but please don't do that if you don't have an agreement with the protocol. And there is a standard, like the one used by the Security Alliance called Safe Harbor, where you can create an agreement between the security service provider and the protocol. So it's going to tell you if there's the opportunity to white hat your protocol, can I do it, yes or no? So if you don't have this agreement, don't hack a protocol, even if you have good intentions, because then there can be like legal problems there. The problem with white hat security from running is that it's sort of like opposed to the macro technology trends that we are seeing in crypto. One is that private mempool and private order flow are becoming more and more widespread with things like flashbots. And the problem here is that if we have a public mempool, we can see all the incoming transactions. But if we have private mempool, it's 70%, right? So probably like an attacker might use one of these private order flow mechanisms. So we are not going to be able to use it, rendering our system pretty much useless. And then the other is that blockchains are getting server, right? Like we've seen chains like, BYDX, Solana with sub-second blockchains. And that makes the whole latency game of monitoring the transactions, doing your simulation and trying to run running much harder, right? And there are solutions like, for example, the priority lanes developed by Skip, where like, this kind of helps because you could potentially have a security lane that is going to give you some advantage in these latency games. It's definitely hard. And then the other is like circuit breakers are not really widely available, so then it just makes the process harder. And then we have rate limits, which is a solution that we personally really like, and mostly because it's simple, right? And basically, rate limits are just setting a threshold on the amount of inflows and outflows you can have in a system. And this is like, for example, you're on a chain and you decide that only 1% of your TVL can outflow the chain in 5 hours, or $5 billion in USDC can outflow your chain or inflow your chain. So it's a very simple idea. They are very different to the other solutions in nature, in the sense that they mitigate, that they don't avoid. So in that nature, they're similar to an airbag, in the sense that like an airbag is not gonna stop you from crashing, but it's gonna hopefully reduce a lot the impact in your injuries, right? And what we say with rate limits is that it's what separates your blockchain, your protocol, from having a private day to having almost the last day, right? Because like, imagine that you can cap, like 90% setting this rate limit, the amount of the damage and the fraction we are containing the last ranges. You can be hacked for 500K instead of 10 million, or like something like that. So you really kind of can move the needle for the future of your project. One instance of rate limits is our IBC rate limits. IBC rate limits are actually the first industry-wide in production standard of rate limits in whole crypto, right? So that's something that like I think the Cosmos ecosystem should be quite proud because we kind of led the way here. They were pioneered by Osmosis after the Dragonberry disclosure with a Cosmos wasn't base model. And then they were also adopted by teams like Stripe, which then they created a Cosmos SDK native module developed by Stripe and recently integrated in the Cosmos Hub. So we've seen some pioneers like Osmosis, but this seems that it's getting more and more widespread adoption. So, how rate limits should be. Rate limits are, you can think of it as a net, like a fishing net. So like if you put them too wide, everything's going to pass and they're useless. And if you put them too tight, it can harm the UX and the liquidity of your chain. You might be throttling or blocking a lot of transactions. So then they should be parameterized according to the chain normal volumes, the volatility, the market usage, and also should be dynamic. Right? If you don't have access to an oracle, you are going to price these rate limits in token amounts. And if your token 10x or that's 10%, it's going to change fundamentally what this rate limit means. So it kind of needs to be dynamic to the conditions of the chain. What are the main advantages of rate limits? For me, the main advantage is that they are simple, right? Like in crypto science, we in complexity, but I guess like for security, the simplest, the better, and they're a simple mechanism. They have used like arithmetic. Basically, they are comparing inflows and outflows. They get a net outflow, and you just compare this with a predetermined threshold. They also introduce any off-chain third-party component and any centralization vector, which of course is very important. And also very important, they are complementary product security solutions. So again, with this analogy of the airbag, your new car can have all these privacy mechanisms to protect you against accidents, but you also want to have like a seatbelt and an airbag, and we should think about the limits like this, in the sense they are a very complementary solution to the others. But of course, they come fall short with the reason that we explained before. They don't protect against the storm, right? So they just mitigate the majority of effects, but they are not protecting you or avoiding you to get your protocol exploited. And also, if we don't set it properly, they can downgrade the UX and the liquidity of your chain. That's creating like DOS even situations or just a poor UX. And that's, we think that rate limits have the possibility to mitigate 90% of the hacks. We have solutions here. So we want to make, rate limits great again. We're working with Osmosis to build the version 2 of IBC limit, where they are dynamically configured with better parameterization. And also, we are developing, we can see very well here, but we are developing the IBC workbench to make rate limits extremely effective. So this is going to be like a powerful dashboard where we can do simulations, back testing, and other deeper analytics to actually try to find the perfect balance given of the volatility, the inflows and outflows of our chain, and just try to adjust these parameters in the best way possible to have this trade-off between security and UX. And that's, we are very excited about the future. This is how kind of our estimate on how the future of post-deployment security looks like. In 6 months, we are expecting that IBC limits are going to become a default requirement for any protocol, any blockchain that handles economic value, the same way that now everyone pulls their seatbelt. And we're, seeing like the pioneers with the Cosmos, Osmosis, and Stride, that we expect that every rollup, every blockchain is going to be implemented in 3 minutes. 6 to 12 months, we expect to have firewall type solutions that introduce levels of centralization and censorship. So kind of like proto versions of the internet, but with centralization vectors. And that's something that we always try to avoid. And then last 12 months, we think that we're going to see the first endgame-like solutions with probably without seeking knowledge and proof of exploit sort of systems that they're not going to have 100% of effectivity. They're going to have false positives, but they're going to catch a big amount of malicious transactions. And then if we combine them with the rate limits, they can mitigate the other 5 or 10% of transactions that our systems miss. And that's the feature that we are building. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions now or in the conference, please let me know. Join 96 trainings.org, and that's how to do it. Thank you. Any questions?
Rate limits multiple level or?
That's a good question. Like the concept of rate limits, you can apply it in different levels. Right now, we are focusing on IBC rate limits, so it's kind of like at the chain level. That you could see, for example, rate limits applied in your lending protocol, where you are just putting caps on traffic transactions when there are certain outflows in your TVL. We just think that, especially for the Cosmos ecosystem, but also, because of the importance of bridges, we are spending the most time in actually like the chain to chain and bridge layer. Fundamentally, we can apply any of that case.
Who's your contract partner again doing those? Why taking an agreement for protocol?
Well, this is a standard that is being posed by the security guidance. Yeah. Normally, it would be side foundation with multi-sig, depends on your counterparty. It depends on their organization, but that's something that already is happening, starting to happen in the wild. It's only pushed in the last month, and this is because we saw in the past, especially in the Ethereum ecosystem, where a white hat, even if you can run a transaction, you are not sure if you could do it or not because of the implications. And this is something that the security alliance have pushed in the last 3 months. You can give a harbor for white hat hackers the same way that people would invest. But it's pretty new, actually. It's just been announced in the last couple of months, and the free implementation from Unify has been last 2 weeks. We are hoping to bring also this sort of type of agreements to the